Hi everybody, I'm Tim Van Orden, and it's Friday, which means that I'm going to share another fascinating fact with you. I chose to wear a blue shirt for this video because I want to talk about the color blue. But here's the thing, my shirt is not the color blue. My shirt is blue pigmented, and there's a difference between pigment and color that most people don't understand. Pigment is something that you can touch. Color refers to light. So we've been taught in school that the three primary colors are red, yellow, and blue, but that's not accurate. The three primary colors, because color refers to light, are actually red, green, and blue, which is why your computer screen is RGB, red, green, and blue. If you combine red light, blue light, and green light, you can make any color. But pigment is different. So when you go to Staples or Office Depot and get ink for your printer, you get cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Those are the primary pigments. So now that you know the difference between pigment and color, I want to talk about how these two concepts relate to human eyes. When you look into someone's eyes, are you seeing pigment or are you seeing color? And the answer is both. If someone appears to have brown eyes, it's because both layers of their iris, which is the colored part of the eye, has a pigment known as melanin in it. And melanin is a darkening pigment. The more melanin you have in your skin, the darker your skin. The less melanin, the lighter your skin. Same with eyes. The more melanin pigment you have in both layers of the iris, the darker your eyes are going to be. So someone who has a lot of melanin in the back layer of the iris, known as the epithelial layer, and also has a lot of pigment in the front layer or the stroma of the iris, is going to have brown eyes. But someone who appears to have blue or green eyes will have melanin in the back or epithelial layer of the iris, but they won't have any pigment in the front layer or the stroma. So if you take somebody with blue eyes and you dissect their eye, you're not going to find any blue in there. Same with green eyes. You're not going to find any green in there. It's an optical illusion. Their eyes are actually brown. All human beings have brown pigmented eyes on a scale from light brown to black. So how does it work? Why do some eyes appear blue or green when they're really brown? Well, it's caused by something called Rayleigh scattering or Tyndall scattering. It's the same reason that the sky is blue. There's nothing actually blue in the sky. There's no pigment up there making the sky blue. It's an optical illusion created by something called Rayleigh scattering. And here's how it works. You've got light passing through the atmosphere. And the atmosphere is made up of lots of tiny particles that are invisible to the naked eye. And when light hits them, it reflects off of them. And if those particles are small enough, and they're smaller than the wavelength of the light that's hitting them, the shorter wavelengths will be reflected off. And the shortest wavelength of visible light is blue. Whereas red is a much longer wavelength of light, bigger than the particles that it's hitting in the atmosphere, so when we look at the sky during the middle of the day, we don't see any red. And the same thing happens with people with blue or green eyes. As light passes into the stroma, it interacts with a turbid medium. What does that mean? Well, turbidity is kind of like cloudy water. The cloudier the water is, the more turbid it is. That means there's particulate suspended in that water, really tiny particles suspended in it. So you've seen the difference between clear water and muddy water. Well, muddy water is very, very turbid. So the front part of our eye is a turbid medium. It has a lot of particles in suspension. So as the light comes into our eye, it hits this turbid medium, and those tiny, tiny particles cause the light to be bent, and blue is the first color to be bent, so the eyes appear blue. If the particles are a slightly different size, then green is going to be bent out. So even though someone's eyes appear blue, they're actually brown. And even though the sky appears blue, it's actually black. It's the effect of light hitting particles in the atmosphere that makes it look blue, even though it's black. And it's the effect of light hitting particles in the stroma that makes people's eyes appear blue, even though they're brown. And the lesson here is that everything is not as it seems. Even though some people may appear a certain way, maybe that's just how we're seeing them. Maybe that doesn't actually reflect who they are. Maybe it's a trick of the light. Maybe it's a trick of our mind. So before you judge, ask some questions. open the door, look under the covers, see what you find. The world is endlessly fascinating if you take a look.